Today, I am joined with a wonderful artist based in Croatia using clay to create incredible pieces such as birds of happiness, bottles that think they are vases, volcanic flowers, and workshops for those wanting to try their hand using clay. You are going to love this talk as we delve into behind the scenes of how you can go from no sales to a successful creative art business. Welcome, Laura Rainbow. Hello.
Hello, I'm Michelle.
Hey there. So, this is an incredible journey that you have been on. I can't wait to dive into this because you've been on TV, you've had sellout workshops, you've selling your art. Let's get stuck in. Where did this start for you? Like, when did you start making art?
It Making art, making something out of clay started just by an incident, by an accident, when a friend who has applied to go to a course um, took me with her, and I just loved it. And I started, and I didn't think it's going to turn into a business or that I will do it for any length of time. And I had kept it as a hobby for quite a few years. And then 3 years ago, I decided to turn it into business. And I moved in the studio and I got a web shop and started courses and workshops. And it just kind of happened.
Took off. So, that was only 3 years ago, which is not long.
It's actually 3.5 years ago. And it happened. I moved in the studio literally on the day of the first lockdown. So that was not fantastic beginning, but it was wonderful
Oh,
for
God.
me because I was looking. I moved in here and I was so blissfully happy to have my own lovely space. And my kilns were brought in, and I was looking through the window and I saw this bird. It was quite a large bird, like this, and just staring at me outside the window. And the bird was there for 3 days, literally 3 days. And my neighbors had a cat, I have a dog. And it just in the end, I called the ornithologist and I said, what do I do with this bird? It's been here. Okay, so it hopped away, meter here, meter there, but it kept there. Anyway, the bird was learning to fly, and apparently it was being fed by its parents. But whilst I was watching that bird, my hands were just kneading the clay and just molding the clay, and I suddenly had a beginning of the whole collection, which then grew into collection of birds of happiness, because my birds were able to fly to their new owners, even outside the country, and we were not free to go anywhere at the time. And so, because the freedom is important for our happiness, I call them birds of happiness. And I
Oh.
watch the progress of each bird, and they all have a name. Very often there is a whole story behind each of the birds of happiness, how I made them, where I made them, who named them. Sometimes they are named by members of our beautiful community. Sometimes it's students who come to the studio and just see a bird and just say, "Oh, this looks like a bluebird," and that's it. The bird is named.
Oh, I love that. And so before you set up your studio, you were making art as a hobby, is that right?
I was trained as a teacher, primary school teacher, but I never worked in a school. And I went to
Mm-hmm.
England as an au pair, and then met my husband and got married and stayed in England. And this is why my surname is Rainbow. And so when I was in England, I didn't actually, I did a little bit of painting, but as I wasn't formally trained as a painter, and it wasn't anything that I would do on a regular basis, the actual art making, apart from what happened at school, literally started when I joined this course and started to learn about ceramics.
And what was it that drew you to clay in particular? Was there a starting point where you were introduced to clay? Was it through a course or how did you discover it?
A friend took me to a course by accident, and I just loved it. And I instantly felt this connection because playing with clay was so calming and so soothing and so tactile. And you can make anything out of clay. And so eventually I learned different techniques of finishing clay, different techniques of building clay. I passed the exams so that I could actually teach other people, but I still kept it as a hobby because sometimes they say perhaps it's not a good idea to turn hobby into a business. But I got to a point where I just loved it so much. I wanted to do it all the time. I wanted ceramics to be my full-time job. And I turned into United Art Space and I got lots and lots and lots out of it to know how to progress, how to present what I do, how to tell my story, and just how to be present for people who might find it interesting and become either my students or buyers of my work, or just meet me to come to workshops. So yeah, it was an accident, but it turned to just shape my whole life.
And when you found United Art Space, was that just when you'd moved into your studio? So you were kind of putting on the radar that I want to make this a business. And then was that the time that you found us?
It was more or less that time, yes. I kind of started and was learning about how
Yeah.
to have an Instagram, and I only had a personal page on a Facebook, and I kind of started to think about having a web shop, but it was all kind of thinking about it, but nothing was being created. So all the lessons in the United Art Space, all the lessons in the Seven Keys, all the lessons in the Hub, kind of I drew something out of each and every one of them to be able to shape my business and to be where I am now.
Yeah. And so when you met us, you weren't selling, you didn't really have workshops, it was a new idea. And now you have, oh my gosh, well, it's crazy, isn't it? Just talk us through what's been happening for you in the last 6 months, 12 months.
In the last 6 months or 12 months, it would take a long time. But if I go back to the very beginning, what I found really invaluable, very first lesson in the Seven Keys, the mindset, to actually have the
Hmm.
courage to show what I have made, to present piece of myself, because when an artist makes something, it's we all put lots, as you know, we all put a piece of ourselves in our work, and to present it to somebody for their judgment, and open ourselves for maybe a rejection, it takes kind of a leap of faith. And I've was supported by all the members of the United Art Space as well. And that gives you the community kind of carries you, and it certainly gave me lots of confidence. So that first summer on the coast, when my yoga teacher said, oh, let's have a workshop, this was my first workshop. It was literally on the terrace of my house. It was for the people I knew. But I would have said no had I not had already started working on my mindset. And this was the start. And I said, okay, I enjoy this. I can do it. I have something to offer. And then I started to think, okay, so I need perhaps a space in town, because still my mindset was saying, no, Laura, you can't actually have courses or workshops in your studio because your studio is far off the center of the town. You know, this kind of limiting belief that we tell ourselves. But when I started to have workshops in town and they were successful, I thought this is so hard, you know, 25 kilos of clay to take to town. It's physically exhausting. There is nowhere to park. Anyway, I was still working on my mindset and I thought, okay, let's extend my studio. And behind me is another part of the studio where I run courses. And I decided to start courses here. And I couldn't believe it, but yes, people came from all over the town, you know, drove for an hour, got on the buses, went by taxis. If somebody wants to do something, if they are drawn to it, it's not going to stop them, the fact that studio is somewhere else. And people need this expression of themselves through art, through making something. Nowadays, people, as we all know, we're all glued to our screens at work and our leisure time. And so to actually have something to do with our hands is a magnet for many. And so I overcame this mindset that my studio is too far and the courses started. And then, of course, television started to be interested. So I gave a few interviews. They came here to film me. Then I was invited to a couple of radio programs. And it's, you know, it's just now whenever there is a festival of ceramics in Croatia, I get an invite and kind of I think everybody is invited. And when I talk about it, I see that other ceramicists actually don't know. You know, they haven't been invited. They don't know about it. So it's I discovered that I love raku firing. And I'm very, very fortunate that actually my studio is in the countryside, not far from the town, but the countryside. And so I can do raku firing in my garden. And those who are familiar with raku firing, it involves lots of fire, lots of smoke, and unpredictable results. So this unpredictability is just a challenge for me. I love it. And so having a studio where it is, in fact, turned out to be a great advantage because I can say, come to the countryside. Sometimes we have workshops outside, and it's beautiful just to something that I wouldn't be able to do if I was in the center. And this was my mindset. This was kind of something that certainly changed with the help of United Art Space and all the courses that I went through.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great example to other people of how we can predict the future and we can create stories in our mind that no one would buy this because it's too realistic. No one's going to come to my workshop because it's too far away. No one's going to do this. So there's no point. And that is such a great example of how we have to get out our own way and try things because sometimes what our perception is just not the truth. And that is incredible how you had in your head that it would be too far away, but actually it's a benefit because people feel like they're escaping. And I
Exactly.
was talking to my friend Sharon, who's also a potter, and yeah, and we were talking about this very topic actually about how we're glued to screens and especially the next generation at the moment, how we do a lot of things digitally and actually we learn so much from using our hands and being in touch with clay and molding things and it's part of the brain's development as well, I think, to do that. So it is so important what you're doing and what you're sharing. And so it's, I think for what you've achieved in the last 3 years is incredible because you've gone from deciding that I want to make this a career to making it a career within 3 years, which is brilliant. And so what is the one thing do you think that's helped you along that journey? Do you think it's the mindset has been the biggest key in all of this?
It's the mindset and it's the people. It's the community and it's the different communities that I kind of acquired on my journey. One of them, of course, the first one is United Art Space Community, from which there is my little group of Croatian artists who were also members of the hub. And so now this is turned into a support, real life support of people who live in Croatia. And as you know, we sometimes meet and we create together. And then, of course, other ceramicists, some of whom I have known before. I turned my hobby into business, my family. So all this together, you know, this little kind of puzzle pieces, they all seem to come together as if the universe has just made a path for me to go in this direction, and everything seems to flow and go where I want it. And this part, go where I want it, is another thing that I have learned from you. One of the keys, we have to have a plan. And
Mm.
seriously, I know before I just let the life take me. But since I have a plan and I know where I want to go, and that is definitely something I have learned from your courses, I know where I want to go. And so perhaps I will achieve it this year, perhaps I will achieve it next year, but I can see that I'm already achieving, not just in financial terms or in terms of being fulfilled to do a job that I love, but just in terms of being surrounded with people that I want. You know, I kind of created this almost a bubble of beautiful human beings that are not just the students that come to courses and workshops, but my buyers. You know, I love to meet my buyers. I deliver sometimes the birds of happiness they buy or other ceramics they buy. And I thought, I know what is one thing that is for all of my buyers, one thing in common is they all have twinkle in their eye. You know, they're all kind of people who are just love to live and open just for their hearts are open. And this is the kind of people I want to sell my things to. And I created that with your help.
Yeah, community is so, so important, and lifting each other and being connected. Again, I was talking to Sharon about this. We were echoing exactly what Sharon was saying, how we were reflecting back, and how having that network around you is so important, because someone will recommend you and then someone suggests something to you, or someone's there to support you. And I really believe that having that strong network around you is one of the biggest factors towards growth and getting to where you want to be, and feeding off each other. And like, because I've seen, and I've been fortunate enough to come to Croatia and meet the Croatian group, and we hung out together, and you can feel that energy when they're together and they're all doing amazing things, and it's no accident because they're doing it together, and they're a force of nature. Yeah. And I feel that, and that's because you're all on this journey, and it's yeah. It's incredible to see, and I'm just so thankful that I've been a small part in putting it together, but that then you've taken that one step further and grown your own communities and your own workshops, and it's beautiful to see. So, how does it feel to know that you've designed your own life? Because you've designed life the way you've wanted it, and you've done that. You are inspiration in that. How does that feel?
Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, is this real? You know? And when we do best year yet, and I went to what I wanted for 2021, and then what I wanted for 2022, and now what I want for this year, and I go back and I'm thinking, goodness, yes, I have achieved, well, not everything, but lots of things that I wanted, and for some of them I thought it's not going to be possible. Like for financial part, it's never going to happen, you know. But I'm going to plan it in any case. I'm going to have my good, better, and the best goal and see what happens. And then when it happens, I'm kind of, wow, I'm so grateful and so just overwhelmed sometimes. But it's fantastic, fantastic.
Oh, I love that. And do you have any advice for anybody who's listening who is maybe at that stage of I want to make this a career and they just don't know what to do, what steps to take? Do you have any advice listening to for anyone listening?
Well, yeah, first of all, open your heart and follow your dreams. That, we have to follow our passions, whatever they are. That's the only way to have a fulfilled life, to not to prove anybody else, and not even to prove ourselves that we can do something, but just live the life we want and not be scared. And if that means taking a course somewhere or
Mm.
joining a group somewhere, yeah, be open for it. And sometimes we have to persevere. And yes, there are times when personally, I can only speak from my own experience, where I would still be in the studio 2 o'clock in the morning and drag myself to bed, hardly thinking, oh, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I have another workshop. But that's what I like doing. And when you do what you like doing, what you love doing, then everything is easier. So just follow your passions.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work, does it, when you love what you do?
Yes, yes, it does. Sometimes
Oh, wonderful.
I would sit with my students sometimes and make something, and I feel kind of, gosh, this is work, Is this really work? I'm playing with clay. I'm surrounded with these beautiful people. We just celebrated somebody's birthday. We had a glass of champagne, and I've made a bird, and this is work, and I'm going to sell this bird, and that's actually my life. Sometimes feels unreal, especially if I go back like 2.5, 3 years. Um, but yeah, it only comes from just following our dreams. And as I said, if that means going to a course, learning things, brushing up on our skills, um, getting to a course to help our mindset, yes, that's the way to do it. It's not going to happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. But if we start on the path, um, of our journey, of our life, the path that we like, we're just going to enjoy the whole journey and the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, it's been absolutely wonderful speaking with you. I just wanted um, to just thank you for being such an inspiration because I think that you you really decided what you wanted and you have been the person to take the action. So we've been there to support you and give you resources, but you are the one. You show up and you commit to doing the work and you learn and you apply it and you do the work on yourself. And now you've cultivated this amazing community around you, and you did that. You made that happen. It was no accident. You did that, and I just want to take a moment to celebrate that with you
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
because it's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us. It's amazing to have you inside our community. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you, Laura. And thank you to everyone tuning in. We'll put the links below if you want to go and find Laura and check out the Birds of Happiness and other work that Laura creates. We'll put the links below. And if you are in Croatia, you can maybe go and check out Laura's workshop too. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.